Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Sunday service of Now Creations. May I simply begin by reminding you that right now, right at this moment, you are totally whole, totally complete. May you just feel that within yourselves, whole, complete. And may I suggest that that's the way you'll be for the rest of today and tomorrow as well, whole and complete, to be able to express the loving goodness that is at the very center of our beings. With that brief reminder, let me also mention I'm very excited about a couple of things. The first one is we'll be having our first open forum tonight from 6 to 7:30 p.m., an opportunity for people simply to be on Zoom and let us know what you're thinking, questions and answers, etc. Just go to our website, nowcreations.org, click on Study Groups, and scroll down to Open Forum. And then also our seminar on August the 15th from 10 to 5:30 p.m. entitled From Earthling to Cosmic Being. This is going to be a very enlivening seminar. The material is just so good. I encourage you to be able to join us if at all possible. Just go to our website. It'll simply say online seminar, and you can register at that time. My dear friends, it just continues to be such a joy to see the goodness and the kindness that each one of you is extending to the people in your lives. Your words and your deeds of love are such inspirations to all of us in Now Creations and to me personally. Thank you. For quite some time, I wanted to do a teaching concerning a phrase that struck me very deeply. Thus, today's teaching is about that phrase, non-spiritual religion. Non-spiritual religion. When I first read that phrase, non-spiritual religion, it immediately resonated with me. And what immediately struck me was the fact that many people, especially in Western culture, were raised in truly a non-spiritual religion. What I mean by this is that especially in Christianity, but also in Judaism and Islam, the notion of fear and sin were very, very dominant and still are for many people today. Rather than loving our loving Creator, many people were still fearful of displeasing God and were very much concerned about being labeled a sinner. Stories still exist, such as that of a young girl who was told that she had black marks on her soul and that she must be careful not to make her soul blacker. You have to ask the question, what went wrong in religion? And then being certainly very important is, rather than understanding our connection to our Father, Mother, God, religion seemed to be a series of do's and don'ts, and quite frankly, mostly don'ts. Don't do this, don't do that, thou shalt not. What I would like to suggest to you today is precisely this. What went wrong, and what are we now getting straight? Let's begin. While my comments will be applied especially to Christianity, they could really be applied to any religion, especially those dominant in Western culture in which many of us have been raised. So, what went wrong with Christianity? Let's begin with the life of Jesus, and then talk about his followers, and then finally, what it is that we are now getting straightened out today. First, let's briefly take a look at the life of Jesus. Two things are very clear. The first one was that Jesus deviated from the Jewish religion of his time. Rather than focusing on all the rules and regulations that had come to be involved with Judaism, Jesus simply said, well, there's only two commandments. The first one, to love God with all of your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And then secondly, to love your neighbor as yourself. That was it. Loving God and loving your neighbor, not only in part, not only in a little bit, but truly loving God and you're loving your neighbor wholly. And loving God and loving your neighbor then provides the guidance and direction for you in your day-to-day living. The focus was on love. This focus is clearly evident when Jesus gave us that wonderful teaching in A Course in Miracles, when he said, teach only love, for that is what you are. So what went wrong? Essentially, what went wrong was the message of Jesus was in conflict with the religious leaders of his time, and he was eventually crucified because he literally bucked the system of his times. His teachings were just too much for the leaders of his time because they were entrenched in temple laws and regulations. The second point of Jesus' life is also quite clear. History, for the past 2 centuries, for the past 2,000 years, simply indicated the fact that Jesus got it right. The most important thing that we see so clearly today is that love is the message. Love of God and love a neighbor. But there is one very important thing to acknowledge. Jesus lived this way. Jesus had a feel for God. Jesus had a feel for his neighbor. Love was more than just his message. Love was his reality every day. Love was the way that he lived every day. Jesus was heart and soul, connected to the God Spirit and to his neighbor every day. Jesus knew and felt and lived these connections every day. Now you can begin to see what went wrong. Now you begin to see what went wrong. The followers of Jesus, first his immediate apostles, and then later the Christian church, did not have the same love of God and love of neighbor that Jesus did. Just need to repeat this. What went wrong was his immediate followers and the Christian church did not have the same love of God and love of neighbor that Jesus did. Let me explain. Soon after Jesus' death, his followers split into 3 factions. Some followed James, some followed Peter, and then some followed the new kid on the block, Paul of Tarsus. What was extremely important was that the immediate followers of Jesus did not have what he had. They did not have the love of God and love of neighbor deeply embedded within themselves. They did not have his same spiritual knowing. And as a result, they bickered with each other about rules and regulations. Rules and regulations took over for love. Rules and regulations took over for love. The same thing happened in historical Christianity. Christianity eventually split into 3 groups. Imagine that. The first split from Roman Catholicism was the rise of the Greek Orthodox religion in 1054, the Greek Schism. Again, an argument over rules and regulations. And then the Protestant Reformation from 1517 to 1648. Again, guess what? An argument over rules and regulations. Are you not beginning to see a pattern here? Just as Jesus resisted the rules and regulations of Judaism, it was precisely this problem that gripped his apostles in the Christian church. Rules and regulations became more dominant than the love of God and the love of neighbor. Do you not see this? Two things now become very important. First, there was no Jesus around to get things straight. Sure, there were some movements of reform like Francis of Assisi, but quite frankly, the rules and the regulations maintain their grip. Now, this is very, very important for us to understand. The churches maintain their grip through fear and sin. The big fear. If you did not follow the rules and regulations, you would spend an eternity in hell. But even more so was the terrible teaching of sin. It boiled down to this, and you can understand the situation. In every person's life, things often just do not go right. And we have thoughts and emotions of anger, envy, lust, jealousy, and a lot of negative behavior. These made people feel sinful. They knew that something was amiss in their lives. But rather than elevating the people out of sin, the churches saw sin as their human condition. You are a sinner. Now, whether they did this consciously to control people or unconsciously, that was perhaps something that we'll still have to debate over a year. But quite frankly, there was just not another Jesus around to correct the situation. The result was devastating. You are a sinner and destined for hell unless you follow the rules and regulations, especially the rules and regulations of my church, of our church. Do you not clearly see this? Now, what was a person to do? Risk eternity in hell? Or follow the rules and regulations of the churches? This is truly what is meant by non-spiritual religion, where fear and sin begin to dominate, and following the rules and regulations were more important, where the 10 Commandments and the commandments of the church were more important than the twofold commandment of Jesus, love of God and love of neighbor. Now repeat this. This is what we mean by non-spiritual religion, where fear and sin began to dominate, and following the rules and regulations were more important, where the 10 Commandments and the commandments of the churches were more important than the twofold commandment of Jesus, love of God and love of neighbor. Let's now focus on getting it right again. The whole new age of spirituality is focused on getting it right again, loving God and loving our neighbor, because love is who you are. Well, there have been many, many teachers and many books concerning this return to the spirituality of love. Many examples of this return to love. There are 3 particular teachings that I feel are basic. The first one is from that wonderful book, A Course in Miracles. It's no wonder that it is such a wonderful book, because it was channeled by Jesus. And it should be no wonder that the basic message of the Course in Miracles is, teach only love, for that is what you are. Now, do you not see the connection between Jesus' message in the Course, teach only love, for that is what you are, and his twofold commandment, love of God with your whole heart, mind, soul, and strength, and love of neighbor as yourself? Are you not getting the message? The message is love. But love, not as simply everyday people view love. The love that Jesus talked about is not about so much loving a person or things in the world. Rather, the love that Jesus talks about is an internal feeling. It is an internal knowing. It is an internal vibration, which is all-inclusive. This is why so many people misunderstood his message. They viewed love as love for something or for someone, rather than an internal feeling, an internal vibration. Another word for love might be very helpful. We sometimes simply call it presence. A presence of God, first and foremost within you. First and foremost within you, which is then extended outward. It is your connection with God first. It's loving God first, with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, so that you can follow that second commandment of loving your neighbor as yourself. This is what Jesus had. He was in the vibration of love. He felt that love of God, which then got expressed as love for neighbor. I believe that you and I are doing this very same thing. We feel it. It is something internal. It is this that we are now getting straight again. There is a second book I want to mention. It's entitled The Direct Path by Andrew Harvey, written in 2001. Again, let me say that Andrew Harvey is just one who recommends a direct path. There are many, many, many other books that exemplify the same thing. However, the title of this book, the title of the book, The Direct Path, denotes two things that are very important. First, he affirms that you have a direct path to God, which simply means that the inner you, your soul self, your spirit connection, is in direct connection with your God spirit. You have been, always will be, in a direct connection to the God spirit. There is no disconnection except in your own mind. And as soon as you go within, you will experience what Jesus had and all of the great teachers knew. You have a direct connection. There is a direct path. There is no need for a yellow brick road. There's no need for a yellow brick road. You have a direct path. But it is the second aspect of having a direct path that is of great importance as well. Just follow me. Because you have a direct path to God, you don't need to follow the rules and regulations of a church, of a sacred book, or even of a person such as Jesus or the Buddha. Because Because you have a direct path. Do you understand this? You have a direct path. The direct path clearly challenges the rules and regulations of the churches, because the churches, or a book, or a person, still want their rules and regulations to be followed. They want their rules and regulations to be the means of salvation. It certainly doesn't mean that the churches cannot be helpful at times, but they are not necessary. The churches, a book, or any teacher are not the means of salvation. God is. Because you and God are in direct connection. Are you ready to accept this? This doesn't mean you just do anything you feel like doing, but it does mean that you are in direct connection. And when you are in this direct connection, when you are in the vibration of love, you are whole and complete. There are no other rules and regulations, only the presence of love. Which now brings me to the third book, The Second Coming of Christ, published by Paramahansa Yogananda in 2007. In a nutshell, Paramahansa simply says that you and I, we are the second coming of the Christ. The Christ is not unique to Jesus, but rather the Christ is the consciousness of love that Jesus taught. It is the consciousness of love that Jesus taught. And it is that consciousness that enables us to be the second coming of the Christ, because we have a direct connection to the God Spirit. Our work is to simply extend the work of Jesus that he was unable to complete because of the density of his time. Our work is no less than his, to bring heaven to earth, but not just through one person, but through all of us. The second coming of the Christ is the consciousness of us. It's the consciousness of the masses, and we are a part of that consciousness. You and I are the second coming of the Christ. The second coming is the coming of the vibration of love, for that is what we are. We are bringing this love consciously, practically, heaven to earth every day. You are the second coming. I know that you know this. It resonates within you. I know that you understand it. Will you live this way? Why would you not? We are no longer living in the fear and sin of a non-spiritual religion. We are living in the Christ consciousness. In conclusion, I hope that I have adequately explained the non-spiritual religion. The non-spiritual religion that many of us have lived under, whether intended or not. The message is quite simple. Free yourself from rules and regulations that keep you imprisoned. Return to the direct path of the second coming of the Christ. Teach only love, for that is what you are. This is the one and only way always has been, still is, and will forever be. With that in mind, let me now take you into meditation, and what a joy it is to do so. Let's begin as we are wont to do by simply focusing on the breath, just allowing that rhythmic breathing to come into us. Just feel the breath coming in and just feel the breath going out. Nothing forced but focused. Please begin. Right now, do you not feel it? Are you not consciously aware right now of that feeling of love, that vibration of love, right at this moment? Latch onto it. Feel that presence within you. Do you not see that you have a direct path to God? Better yet, do you not feel that you are of God? Honestly, with all the spiritual work you have done, do you not feel that consciously, right at this moment, that you are of God? And would you notice how loving, how joyful this feeling is, being of God? This is not the sad sack. This is not holier than you. This is joyful, happy, loving expression. Notice the enthusiasm of that, the feeling of that. Feel that joyful presence within you. Isn't this what you've always wanted, honestly? To be whole and complete in the love of God? Isn't that what you've striven for? What you've yearned for? And now here it is, right in front of you. Whole and complete, consciously, knowingly, in the expression of love. Isn't this love of God, living this way, the one thing that you can joyfully give yourself to each day and feel its sacred blessing in your life? It never gets tiresome. It never wears out. Always fresh, always new. This is you. Just right now, don't you consciously, joyfully feel whole and complete? Nothing is missing. You are in the conscious presence of the Spirit of love. Now there are two other things. The first one is that we are here to extend this love to each other. The people in your life right now, the relationships you have, you are here to bring this joyous presence into manifestation. You're here to consciously bring heaven to earth. That's our purpose, to love our neighbor as ourselves. And secondly, much to our surprise, but to our great joy and happiness, we are reminding each other of who we are. We are in a spiritual unity with others of like mind and soul. It's one of our greatest gifts. We're here assisting each other. And will you just appreciate the people in your life who remind you, as we appreciate you reminding us. We're just here helping each other to be ever more loving beings and experiencing the joy of oneness. Just right now, would you just notice how good you feel? You're whole and complete. Don't allow the mind or the world to get in the way. May we continue to remind each other of our direct path, and that we are the second coming of the Christ consciousness. Know this with certainty.
the light shines bright to illumine love without, love within. I honor thee, I honor thee. Namaste, I honor thee, I honor thee, I honor thee. Namaste, I honor thee. When you are where you need to be, within that space, I honor thee. Seen through eyes, an illusion, seen through spirit, we are one. I honor thee, I honor thee, I honor thee. Namaste, I honor thee, I honor thee, I honor thee. Namaste, I honor thee. Namaste, I honor thee.
We are the second coming of the Christ. That consciousness of love. I know that you know this. It's the truth of who we are. Let's not back down, but let's assist each other to rise up. Namaste, dearly beloveds. Namaste.